Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit south node conjunct one's natal Venus. Now, in astrology, the south node is about what we're going away from. Excuse me. And the thing about it is, and since Venus is involved in this, it could be some kind of love relationship, romance. If it's, say, for example, you have this in Aries, this transit, it could be from a contentious relationship, a combative one there might have been a lot of, you know, maybe there was abuse to some degree, a lot of arguing. It could also be about going away from something monetary. It's not necessarily always going to be a monetary loss. So I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this transit. They didn't lose any money. Some cases it can manifest that way, especially if there's other things in the chart, whether it's transits, natal placements that might reaffirm or reinforce us, such as like like a transit of transit Saturn making an adverse aspect to your natal Venus, or Saturn in the second house natally or by transit, things of that nature. And also too, it could be about, again, when you have this and when it involves money, sometimes it can indicate a loss of something monetary. It could simply be about going away from a certain monetary endeavor or venture at that particular time, and you might wind up doing something else. The transit of the south node is not necessarily always going to be negative or adverse. Sometimes going away from certain things are better, and it could and then you could focus on the future, which is the opposite point of this, of course, by transit. So also too, I mean, Venus can be connected with the lower back, the throat, the neck. If there's some kind of like tumor in the neck, it might be being removed, because you're talking about the south node is what we're going away from. Sometimes, though, when you have a transit of the south node, it can affect someone to, in a detrimental manner. So there may be some issues with the lower back or throat or neck at this time of this transit. Now, another thing too is when we look at this. Now, it's also, Venus is associated with one's self-esteem and self-worth. Now, let's say if you have this in Leo, something could happen where you could be going away. Maybe your self-worth or self-esteem is diminished. If it's in Leo, say, it could be because you may have been demoralized or embarrassed, or in some situation where it was very demeaning. And the thing about it is, too, go back to relationships. In some cases, this could manifest in leaving a relationship. I had this transit took place with me. I had the transit. I had transit south node conjunct my natal Venus. It was in Leo. Made the exact conjunction on December 27th, 1989. And around that time, it was getting to a point where I was at least closing in on leaving a love relationship. And being it was in my fourth house, it could have been, maybe it was doing something where I was in fear it was going to cause some more extravagance in a home-related situation if I was going to move out of the place where I had been at the time, and going somewhere else with this person. And maybe it was also because, given that we're talking about the zodiac sign Leo, my anticipations of this person maybe were higher than what I actually received. I do feel, it might have been a mistake in doing so, looking in retrospect. But the thing about it is that's, how that could manifest and pan out for somebody that basically has this, and being in the fourth house, it might have been something, maybe I had some reluctance about this person, being involved with me at that latter or end part of life. Maybe something happened where I just couldn't envision being with this person at the end or that latter part of life for whatever reasons at the time. Now, another thing too is sometimes a past connection might contact you at this time. Keep in mind the South Node is associated with the past. And Venus can be about our relationships, it can be about our love relationships, but also important friendships as well. And say if you have this in, let's say this is in Scorpio as an example, it can be a connection that was very deep or provocative, or somebody that might actually be a Scorpio sun, moon, or ascendant person, or simply one that embodies Scorpio characteristics. And another thing too is that this could also be, sometimes this could be manifesting adverse feelings or sentiments as well that you might be experiencing at this time. Venus can be associated with that. Now, let's say, for example, if it's in Aries, this transit, it could be one that's very angry, acrimonious feelings that are conveyed, that are expressed. Capricorn could be very melancholy, sad feelings, and Leo, it could be expressing some feeling over being demoralized or embarrassed, being very prideful. It could be over an issue connected with pride. Now, another thing is, and going back to the fact that this could impact somebody's monetary situation, whether it might be a monetary loss or simply going away from a current monetary endeavor or venture. Let's say, for example, you have this transit in the zodiac sign Cancer. Well, it could be going away from some, it could be like working in a fast food place or some restaurant. As far as making money, it could be doing something with laundry, or working as a historian, anything, or some rescuing profession, anything that could be associated with the zodiac sign Cancer. Home improvement, real estate. It could be going away from that, or you might be experiencing some loss monetarily in one of those professions. Now, and it's sometimes, though, it could actually be about, it could manifest in going back to a previous money making endeavor. It could be evaluating something that you had done previously, and if your current situation as far as generating income is not working out for you presently, you may be deciding to go back to a past situation that you were making money. Say if this was in Scorpio, it could be going back to doing locksmithing or doing something with the occult, which could include astrology, something with law enforcement, working in surgery, some kind of investigation position, whether it might be forensics, or what have you, working in a death profession, like working as a coroner or mortician or funeral director, as some other examples. Now, another thing too, sometimes this could also be about rekindling a love connection. It could be a past love that has entered your life, and you might be giving this person a chance to reconcile and try to do something where you might be able to make something worth again. Now, this is something where this is also something too as another issue. Let's say, going, since we're talking about this transit, could be about going away for money. It could be something like, I mean, let's say you have it in Pisces. Especially, I would say, like the eighth house. The eighth house can be associated with credit cards, and you have this transit in Pisces. It could be of being victim of credit card fraud. Remember that Pisces is associated with victims, but it's also associated with things that are fraudulent, with deception and duplicity. And the eighth house is about credit cards, or could be even insurance fraud. Maybe a person might be more susceptible to something like that happening to him or her at the time. Now, sometimes too, I think this could also manifest when you're looking at this. This could be about finding something that might be a possession that might have been lost for some time, and you might recover it because it's something. Remember, the South Node is associated with the past. Venus can be associated with what things we have, or belongings and possessions. I mean, if this is in Gemini, it could be some communications device, maybe an Aquarius. It could be like something like a laptop computer, any something with the because that's associated with the internet. Anything, and like I said again, it could be. I mean, if it's an Aries, it could be a gun, as another example. Now, another thing too is that when you have this transit, it can, the energy can be where it might may diminish the as far as matters with the planet it's contacting. Now, it might make somebody feel like, for example, having this transit. Remember, Venus can be about beauty, attractiveness. If somebody has this transit, they might not feel that they're as attractive as they had been previously. Now, I don't really put too much credence in anything about, as far as Venus affecting one's looks, their appearance, unless it's in, the conjunct the ascendant in the first house, conjunct one's sun, something like that. Those are some exceptions, but generally speaking, I don't think it really has a much impact in terms of the appearance, but the person in question that has a transit might still be questioning their attractiveness at that point in time. I mean, let's say, if it's an Aquarius, the person might not feel they look eclectic or unique enough, or in Gemini, not youthful enough, things of that nature. And it's really, and another thing too, another way this can manifest in Hannah, it could be about going away from peace, or let's say if it's an Aries, it could be about fighting for one's peace. It could be a situation that might reach ahead, come to a conclusion as far as that goes, and maybe it's at a point like, say, if you have this in your fourth house as an example, it might be about going away from a potential peaceful situation home. If you feel that it's irreconcilable, it might be time where you move forward and say, okay, this isn't going to work anymore. I'm going to do something else, relocate, because this situation is coming on. It's basically run the course. You might have tried to have some kind of peaceful setting, and maybe it just comes to a point where it's not working. And of course, a lot of this, I mean, whether these things, that you're trying, that are connected with something positive with these transits, whether they go smoothly or not, a lot of that could be predicated and dependent, of course, upon aspects it makes. 2 points in your chart, sextile trine, excuse me, sextile or trine to your natal Jupiter could be more auspicious and more fortuitous. Even a conjunction to it. The thing about it is, too, well, keep in mind a conjunction to Jupiter, sometimes that can inflate that situation even more. I mean, say for example, if you have the transit Venus in Aries hitting, I'm sorry, if you have transit South Node in Aries, conjunct your natal Venus in Aries, and you have Jupiter on top of that in your natal chart, and then Jupiter is close, is conjoined your Venus, and you have the transit South Node hitting that as well. It might actually be, it could manifest in a lover that might have been somewhat combative, or a relationship that was combative that might come back, and the Jupiter element being in conjunction to it might exacerbate that energy. So Jupiter, I mean, the conjunctions with it can go either way. It seems like it could either be something that's exacerbated, or it might provide something more fortuitous and auspicious with it. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.